dream time. There are no limits. The mind is infinite, infinite.
Welcome to New Realities. My name is Alan Steinfeld, and I've been, over the last couple of weeks, been hanging out with a good friend of mine, Dobbs, who is someone who really understands where technology versus consciousness versus the evolution of culture is going. And so I've had him on before, and we're going to be picking up that conversation that we've been starting over the last few weeks. I'm really trying to understand what Bob is saying, because he's laid out a kind of technological development that influences who we are and who we are evolving towards. So in the last show, you outlined the development of technology and media, starting with the telegraph.
The electric phase.
The electric phase of it. Of course, before that we had newspapers, and before that we had word of mouth.
Yeah, more mechanical media, not simultaneous like the electric phase.
So if we survey the history of media, media being the communication between one or two or more people.
Yes.
Would you clarify that as media?
All means of communication is what a medium is.
All means of, so in the cave paintings that they found in France, that was a form of media.
Oh yeah, that was an early medium.
That was and then the development of language, the talking to each other, or even animals have their own language. Would they have their own media?
No, they did not. They do not make extensions of themselves.
Oh, so media is actually an extension of the human.
It's a tool we use, but it's a communicating tool.
So I've talked to biologists saying that humanity is the highest evolution of the mammal, of nature itself. All of nature is encoded in us being humans.
Right, now that's what's interesting. If you start saying it's highest, then you now, with the greenies and the eco-fascists, they quibble with that.
Eco-fascists?
Well, there's greenies and eco-fascists, different versions of what they are.
Right.
The deep ecologists, the point is they question the meme that we are the pinnacle of evolution. But you can clarify it saying we are not part of evolution. We are a rupture with evolution, with first nature evolution, because we make technologies, which nobody else does.
Well, but maybe that is the goal of first nature itself, to create humans that will evolve a greater system. Because you can't say that technology is not natural. It's made from all natural elements. Maybe it's the consciousness of the earth that's directing us to build a technology that extends itself.
Well, that's where the Gaians and the ecologists who worship first nature and make a big deal out of it miss the point. The technology is part of first nature, and it's fusing with cold fusion as an example. So there's where the linguistic problems come up.
Well, talk about, when you say linguistic problems, you're talking about because the ecologists understand that technology as opposed to who they are, what they represent.
Yeah.
And you're saying, no, technology is an extension of humanity and Earth itself.
But at first, before cold fusion, it is not first nature, it is not nature, it is something humans make and creates a whole new complex, a new ecosystem that sort of interferes with the first nature system. That's what the argument is about. How much pollution do we have? You know, both software and hardware pollution. But the language in discussing it is lost in the Android meme today.
Now, okay, the cold fusion, just to define a few terms, is what you're seeing as the hope for endless energy. And the Android meme is
the software imitation of that.
Of what?
Of merging with first nature. When the software,
now, what do you mean,
software imitation of first nature's immortality. Because when the child has a laptop and can have access to all media and interact with all kinds of people, almost like in an ESP sense, that gives a great sense of perpetual emotion and motion within the brain, within the sense of humans' love and addiction of communication, but is lost in a dream world, which all technologies do create, especially the software ones, and forgets about first nature. But cold fusion is the only one that is man-made, human-made, and then connects and becomes immortal. In other words, you got to keep paying your rent to use the internet to communicate, and you can stay up all night for several days communicating in the ecstasy of communication.
Right, so if we had endless energy, we wouldn't need the economic system, we just would have communication.
Because the economic system, the money system, is anchored to first nature. They charge you rent for you to live someplace.
Right.
And that system can sit on the sideline, that historical system, while everybody's lost in the medium matrix of the ecstasy of communication, and you still have to pay rent. How can you get rid of the money system? When you create a frictionless-based energy that allows you not to have to pay rent as long once it's implemented as an environment.
Because all the wire, all the telephone, I mean, people are too greedy for that.
You need food, but I need warmth. If I have a system that keeps the heating system in my house going endlessly, then I don't have to worry about oil. Then I can start growing my own food or bartering, and it loosens things up. This grip by the money system is what we've all been trapped by.
But there's too much greed. I mean, it seems like. I mean, it would be great, but there's people in power, and you know them very well, that don't want that to happen.
Right, that's the identity crisis.
So they pacify us with technology.
Yeah.
And
the technology looks friendlier and friendlier.
But what we're really needing is what we already know to be true is perpetual motion, endless supply of energy.
We should be challenging and celebrating Pons and Fleischmann and the scientists who have developed beyond them these new technologies, not the internet, not the wired world, which is the last seduction for the old way, even though it's a drug. That is how we need to keep our perspective. It's to see that let's emphasize new energies, new energy systems, not the ecstasy of communication. The ecstasy of communication is going to happen anyways.
The ecstasy of communication, I like that. That's sort of why we're here on the Earth, is really to communicate. That's what
multisensory.
Right, that's why there's, instead of one of us, all of us.
Yes.
And we are all one and many.
See, now there's the Android meme. It imitates the ecstasy of communication technologically. You see how much it's like the basic nature of human beings, which is communication. So what separates humans from other parts of nature is that they create solidifications of the communication from writing and that. I mean, the birds communicate, but they don't write it down. They don't make a television show out of it.
Right.
That is what we do. That's what we leak out of us collectively. But then that creates a babble, a problem.
Well, it's a problem only, well, it's not.
If you don't understand it.
Well, I don't think it's a problem. I think first nature, or you're calling the Earth itself, is desiring this level of communication to exist. So it's not a babbling as much as anything in nature is babbling.
Okay, but you're using words to communicate this.
Right.
On a medium that's electric.
Right.
Just think of all the other media that are activated now by people and the communication going on. A few words and a few definitions which we're haggling out here has no impact on the collective multilinguistic communication.
Okay.
That's the matrix we're in, even though we are being meaningful to each other.
Right. So what can people learn from the years of study? What can people do in their lives right now that will help them be happier?
Nothing. They can do nothing. Now start to live with that fact. Shut your babblings that define that you are going to do something. Begin to look around and perceive where you're inside of, what the nature of it is.
What you're inside of as far as your home?
Which is inside the satellite proscenium arch and the web and all these amazing automobiles in New York City. You know why New York City is not an American city?
Well,
America was built on the printing press and the newspaper and those visual biased means of communication. But New York is acoustic space, and you know what makes it acoustic? The canyons of the stone buildings. The resonating effect turns New York City into an echo chamber, which brings out all kinds of tribal enthusiasm, individual eccentricities, like old tribal societies celebrate and have. But the more Puritan, Victorian, traditional American archetype kind of society in the rest of North America is nowhere like the New York environment. So New York is molded by the acoustic space of what Le Corbusier said, hot jazz and stone. Now that's just one medium we're inside of.
Yeah. What also makes New York interesting is that it's a three-dimensional city. Most people live two-dimensionally. They don't live vertically.
Right.
And so the verticality of us, of this city, creates the acoustical canyon.
The depth level. Yeah.
but also helps people kind of live on all certain levels of
Yeah.
their
The
consciousness.
multi-levelness, which is
Right.
more accepted in pre-literate cultures and post-literate cultures. Not in the literate culture. They standardize meanings from science to dictionaries for 300 years.
Well, what would be a post-literate culture? How would we actually, how are we evolving towards that?
Well, we've been a post-literate culture on the deepest level since the telegraph for 150 years. But in terms of people recognizing it and giving into it, it didn't happen until the satellite happened in 1950s and 60s. The satellite environment got us out of the electric matrix. Then we could see the electric matrix and see that it was post-literate.
So what is digital, what's the effects of digital technology?
Digital is technology replaying the history of human inventions, from speech to the satellite, replaying it for itself, and then presenting a human flexible face to you. That's digital. It's the machine coming alive in simple terms.
Okay, but when we get to nano, where the technology depends on molecular structures, doesn't that create a whole, and then biological machines?
Ah, see, now there you have biological machines, the fusion of first and second nature. Now, genetic engineering is going to bring in the fusion of first and second nature from its context. It will be able to invade and alter your human first nature form. And that is a software program being changed, still within software. But it's Coldfusion that breaks us out of whatever manipulation within the software program that technology will naturally progress towards, like nanotechnology.
Right. What if we make these machines that are somehow biological in nature, and we can transfer our consciousness to those machines? Then we can live as superhuman beings.
That will happen. That will happen.
That is happening.
But
right?
it never gets, unless you get back to the eternal energy of first nature, caused and developed by Coldfusion, we will never get out of that matrix that these evolved software programs are going to do. The Android machine, yes, will imitate the merging of first and second nature, but it'll never be immortal. It will always, it could, as it starts to nano-wise change your organs and replace them, you could consider that individually. So here is the bias. It is giving you immortality, not the collectivity. And the collectivity is broken through by Coldfusion, because the collectivity is controlled by rent.
Who's the collectivity?
That's visual space, money, and rent. What is the common thing? Death and taxes, right?
I guess.
Taxes. That's the economic structure which has run humanity for thousands of years. That economic structure was necessary in that phase of evolution. But the real challenge is now is that we don't need that when you don't have to rent for food and space and oxygen when it is available. It's like the Amazonian primitive tribes who live in that utopia of the jungle.
So what you're saying is that technology and this evolution will get us really start to, with this idea of Coldfusion, endless energy, get us back to our essential self, which is immortal and eternal.
Right.
And when we...
Collectively. See, when
well,
you
individually too, right?
See, the reason people banded together was for survival and food and warmth. If we didn't need that, then we could be free to develop our own fantasies and individual immortalities.
The reason we incarnated,
and the only way that can be done is that if we get rid of the problem of food and shelter and energy.
The problem with food and shelter.
Yeah, which let's call hardware energy. Hard or first nature, hard
food and shelter.
Yeah, food and shelter.
First nature, the body.
Yeah, if you can somehow overcome that, then you have altered the collectivity of how we were being human and why we communicated and why we had to be human and why we had to stay together. So the post-human dream or a fate that Terence McKenna talks about is not possible in a healthy way unless you have these new breakthrough technologies on the energy level.
But I don't think we learned communication as a means of survival. I thought it came out of the...
It was a byproduct.
Well, I think survival was taken care of. I mean, we evolved because we had all of nature to evolve us biologically. We were human beings lived collectively because of their desire for pleasure and fulfillment.
And food.
And food, but I think that's an old historical way of looking at cultural evolution.
Have you seen much pleasure? Yes.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, no, there is pleasure in human communication, but it is all under the stress of survival.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Now you get to the yin-yang of the historical fate of our evolution is that, yes, you can't blame the pain and pleasure cycle that humanities went through. Okay, then if you bring in new energy that gets rid of that pain-pleasure dialectic, which cold fusion would do, then you're in a new dimension. Then you're in a new situation. Now, software will only imitate that, but with cold fusion, then you are post-human.
Post-human in the old terms of survival.
Yeah,
that we
survival and pleasure that brought people together.
And what are we at? What's the next thing beyond that?
With the cold fusion breakthrough, you wouldn't be reliant on pain, pleasure in any neurotic, obsessive way. You could have it at any level you want. Therefore, you're totally in your own world.
So let's talk about the cold fusion breakthrough, which was what? Talk about what cold fusion is.
Okay, Pons and Fleischmann announced on March 23rd, 1989, that they had something, a technology, based on deuterium and palladium and platinum cells, that created more energy in the output than went in.
Okay.
Okay, so they had heat was created, more than was put in. So all technology before that were based on the entropy of the heat and the friction decreasing and winding down, and then you had to start it up again.
That's right. That's why
they violated that physical historical archetype with this new breakthrough.
And this is something that was not necessarily always repeated, right? Because they had problems duplicating.
No, they repeated it, and other labs repeated over the next 5 years. And even Matsushita started to fund it and implement it within their labs.
So where is it? Why aren't we using it?
Now where is it, and how are we going to get it out?
Yeah.
We're inside a communication matrix that would announce this to us if anything happened. But if that matrix is identified with money-making, it will not want that announced.
Or non-renewable resources, then it doesn't want to consume itself.
Right. There's an identity crisis there. So the effort to communicate the breakthrough in the media matrix, which is not interested in stopping on any conclusion, like Finnegan's Wake, it doesn't end. The media needs to have new topics every 6 weeks, every 2 days, every 7 minutes. You know what I mean? This endless thing. You cannot come out and announce something and have it stop the world, stop the software world. Well, so when they announced it, they were immediately criticized for the faxes that went out, and scientists misunderstood the facts, and then other people said this is not real, and others said it was. But the hidden ground was that they faxed and operated within the software communication environment, which is not the way to communicate, because it'll get lost.
So they do have this technology. The technology does exist, and it's being suppressed.
It's being not able to be found.
What do you mean, not found?
Well, I think
Where are the scientists?
They're in Japan, in Matsushita, is one of the main things. Now, the Japanese Matsushita people, investors, have bought up a lot of palladium and platinum, and they're stocking up for this. Now, what are they going to do, and how are they going to relate to other countries who depend on oil?
Right.
And they are involved in oil. In other words, we're in this sticky mud, the briar patch, that it's hard to release ourselves from because it puts so many people out of work. You know, instantly.
But it puts them out of work, but if we have this technology, they don't need work because...
That's right.
But they don't quite see it that way, right?
Because we are endlessly discussing it. For example, this show.
Right.
The endless discussion of whether it's real or not does not bring it forward.
Well, let's say it's real. Let's say, there is this technology.
Now, where is the center? This is the other point I haven't expressed. Where is the center to bring it forward to? There is no center on the world anymore.
Because of the overrun of technology and media?
Of the Android meme and the software interpenetration of us. Well, we are all at the center. So nobody can take responsibility.
You mean there's no king like it was in the old days?
There's no king.
Maybe like the U.S. or whatever money is. Money is the king, right?
But money, you can pass the buck. It's a shared environment. I mean, Alan Greenspan, from one level, runs the United States. He runs the economy. But you cannot stick with that view. When you bring in the president or institutions, universities, everybody agrees they all contribute. There's nobody in the end can accept the buck. That's the problem of the seamless web. It's just like in Finnegan's Wake. You can't see what the point of the book is about. You can't find the center. And that's a mirror of our world. We cannot find the center. And that's the effect of the software situation we're in.
Well, what are your solutions? How are we going
to claim you're the center? I claim I'm the center.
You claim you're the center. So that clears up My misunderstanding that when you say you're the only human that exists
That's another
on the planet.
aspect, right? I've sort of reappeared. I'm taking responsibility. I am the center of all that we've done and all that we can
I'm
do.
talking to Bob Dobbs, who is the first human to claim his centeredness.
No, for everybody.
I
I claim I'm the fulcrum of the collective ESP that has no center up to this point.
for you, but
Not for all of us.
Oh, you're the center for all of us.
Yeah, I'm the one who's announcing this. I have figured it out. I can point to the technologies. Now, how am I going to get the non-centered world to recognize that? That's a problem, a communication problem. But anybody who hangs around me notices that the media does keep pointing to me. They keep referring to Bob.
Well, why aren't you on the front page of the newspaper?
Well, I was. I was in the New York Times today.
You were?
This is April 14th. A friend pointed out the new video game is about a character who's an angel comes to save humanity, and his name is Bob. But what is he going to do? He's going to clean up the future, which is what we're talking about. Where is this leading to? I am communicating about the future and what's going to happen. That is right the latest big video game. Now, why is technology imitating me?
Well, you're not the only guy who's named Bob.
No, but I'm the one who gets on, has been saying this for 10 or
It's
more
true,
years.
And you are talking about cleaning up the future.
Yes,
I'm
I'm the one claiming this.
But how are you going to clean up the future?
Well, that is a communication problem, isn't it?
Well, I guess.
Yes,
I mean,
and I've claimed that my expertise in communication, if I live long enough, I can pull it off.
And Bob
I'm
plans on
doing it.
living long
Yes.
enough because you wouldn't believe how old this guy is.
78 years old.
1922, he says he was born.
Yeah.
And
that's another issue. Do I have a way of slowing aging down? Now, that's what a lot of people would want to have. I
Yes.
may have that.
Yes, I think you do have it.
Yes, if you know me personally. Now, if I announce that,
Yeah.
first of all, I'm going to be killed by idiots.
Well, you just announced it, Bob.
Yeah, but they don't know why I'm not going into any more details. I don't tell them where it is or what I am or what my
just
address
tell
is.
them because you've told me what it actually
No, that's
is.
not, since we're ready to issue out of it.
Right, but if people will want to know,
Yeah, well, we
because it
won't
is
go.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, I know, but we're not going to talk about it because I have to be very careful
All right,
ecologically,
that's fine,
which is
yeah.
part. I'm illustrating the point of what I have to do.
Right,
Now, not
but-
being paranoid,
No.
but you know, there in this invisible world, if I have something valuable, there are millions of gangs that can come in undetected and wipe it out and take it away from me.
Right.
And that may be the same problem for Pons and Fleischmann with the Coldfusion.
Well, just think of the world that we could live in if we have immortality
Yeah.
and endless supply of energy.
Right.
I mean,
Now,
that
here's-
is the ideal society.
Right. Now, here is the problem, is that information is our addiction, our distraction, and our downfall.
And our best friend, though.
Well, always your addictions are your best friend. You like what you're
right,
addicted to,
right.
and it likes you.
Right.
But the problem is that we're living in an information society, they say.
Yeah.
But there's no informing going on in the sense of saying, oh, now we know this. We can't get a center. We can't get to a conclusion. We can't establish anything. That is the seduction of the information society. So we have to realize there's no more information able to be communicated.
But that's why I take the Gnostic approach or the spiritual approach, which lifts you all out of the physicality of
That's
the Android
an image.
beam.
That's an image you have.
It is.
Look how puny that image is
No,
in terms
I'm
of the
saying
fact
there's
that you
something more.
you are radiating through millions of people now. Whether
Right.
they watch the show
But
or not, and they're
but-
inside you. How are you going to lift out one little image? I don't.
It's not an image. It's who we are in the divine self, or the immortal self, or the stuff that
You
is
believe
what-
in that stuff?
that we're beyond the
You believe
body.
that?
Yeah.
Now, can
the
you prove
energy-
that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's
why
like
don't
say
you
this body is like a radio, right?
Yeah.
Just because the body collapses doesn't mean the radio
now?
signal
If
stops.
you really believe that,
Yes.
Now, are other people believing that?
Yeah, there's a whole subculture of people that actually believe that.
See, now you have claimed a central breakthrough in humanity here.
No, this is what the Buddhists, all religions have claimed. I think they've just gotten off the track. I mean,
Where'd they go?
they went and followed the dogmatic beliefs of one leader. I'm saying this is accessible knowledge to each and every one of us if we go in. Go inward,
But
not outward.
the inner has been colonized by television, which is inside us.
No,
We're
that's
inside.
the personality that's been colonized.
You're going to make a distinction.
Yeah, the part beyond the personality, the observer, the one that can observe.
Well, you know, that's always been there and always
Exactly.
will be there.
Right.
That's not relevant to language and human interaction. See, that's what's interesting.
Well, it's relevant to a kind of
but you have that anyways.
ESP, whatever you want to call it, telecommunication connection that
It's
people
there
have when they look at
always.
each other.
It's always. Now you
Yeah.
notice how this world carries on regardless of that. So
This
your
world being what?
language, nature, and technology.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
what's going on, and continuing to ignore the fact or not seeing relevant about the immortality. You know, it may be trying to imitate that in its implosion and evolution.
Well, it is. I think that is what's behind the drive for technology, is the idea to connect to the essence of all beings, you know. This is why we develop technology, for communication beyond the personality to the essence. Who are you really? What can I really know about you?
Well, if I'm the essence, then I'm the same thing as you.
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly it.
But that's not what we see. You live your own fragmentation, I live my fragmentation from that.
Right.
That's what we're trying to understand, to perceive. That's why I don't think that the religion principles are relevant to the situation, because people already know that, live it, and whether they want to believe in life after death, they're going to survive it anyways, because it's going to happen. So they can be surprised when they die, or they can know. Either way, you're dead and you've left this place. I'm dealing with this place.
Right, but I'm just saying, of course, yeah, that's true, but and we can also know on a deeper level that we can tap unresolved parts of ourselves.
The use of Gnosticism would be that, hey, don't worry, even though this planet may, this environment we're making may be destructive and may have a strange outcome, when you die, you're free from it.
Well,
See,
I
you don't want to.
that. No,
see
you're not free from it.
see,
No,
that's resonating with what you just said.
Well, I think for me,
but the language of what I said is what you are disagreeing with. You
well,
see?
it's the language, it's the understanding that, for me, the spiritual search is to go in and find deeper parts of myself, and then through communication
but
to
that's
share that with
language.
you.
Yeah, no, you see, you to go into your deeper self is a thing that's going to survive death. All right.
Right.
So I don't think we should bring that up. When you want to go into yourself in these terms, you go into language.
Right.
And you go into the extensions, and that's the ability to learn how you have an immortality within language.
Well, the extensions are for me to know what you know. I want to understand how you see the world, or that person, or all of us sees the world, that then can bring me to another part of myself.
Right. Now, that's temporary, because I know that every point in the drama of cognition both blocks and merges. You just express the merging part, but at a certain point, your sense of yourself will deflect from that, resist it, and reassert your view of the world. That drama of merging and blocking is what is constant in human perception and interaction.
I think it's eternal, not the sense of blocking, but the sense of what I'm trying to say. It's not temporary, it's eternal. What you're saying is, in communication, we get out information, we affirm ourselves, or newly affirm ourselves, and we put out this new affirmed self to get more communication.
Right.
And so,
well, you want to keep living.
Well, everyone does.
Right. In this dimension?
Everyone, sure, why not?
Okay, now how are you going to get that?
How am I going to get
living forever in this dimension?
With the body, you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, with the stuff that you've talked about.
Okay.
The immortal philosopher's stone.
But are you including the drama that when you experience a breakthrough and a slack, that you get bored with it? Are you able to handle the up and down of it, the river and the mountain?
Yeah, I think so. When you're bored with one level of this...
So you want more choice. Language is giving us more choice. Technology and language are giving us more choices of expending our time in experience.
So we're almost finished here. Just thank you, because, you know, the more communication happens, the more I understand, who I am in relationship to the other. But the technology gives us a multi-dimensional level of existence. Right. So just sum that up here, because we're about ready to close.
Well, I like what Duchamp said. He said there's no solution because there's no problem.
Right.
Now,
that's very Zen.
Right. You interpret it as Zen. The point is, I said that it has no influence on all the other means of communication that we're involved in. Is that a problem?
Could be.
Okay.
Just because you said it doesn't have to mean that it means anything.
That's right.
But what does mean something is
ESP.
Okay.
And technology has come very close to being ESP.
Good.
Let's leave
We'll
it at
leave
that.
them there.
Yes.
Bang, I'm talking to Bob Dobbs, the re-emergence of the Android meme, or the creation of technology as we move into a kind of new level of existence that merges technology with, I guess, the human biosphere. Would you call it that?
Maybe.
I don't know what. Thanks, Bob. This is Alan Steinfeld and New Realities, and thank you for watching.